Mushoku Tensei is more than just an anime. This is a story about redemption. It's about a terrible, dysfunctional person finally being given a second chance at life. More than just an anime, it's a guide for lost weebs afraid of the world, afraid of going outside and wishing they could be born as someone else. Because as bad as your life is, as terrible a person as you are, there's no way you're as this dude. Like, oh my god. And while growing up is hard, it's never too late and never as hard as you think it is. This is why every character in the story is some aspect of Rudy's failures. Someone whose birth fails her, someone who fails herself, someone who is cursed to be alone because of someone else's crimes, someone whose hostile personality drives others away, and someone who does the fucky-wucky with the maid. Someone who lets his urges get the better of him. They are all his failures, but more importantly, there's someone who overcomes those failures by maturing and growing as a person. Anyway, let's start with Roxy, Lolly Extraordinaire.
ありがたい申し出ですが、しばらくは世界を旅しながら改めて魔術の腕を磨くつもりです。
Challenging yourself and your point of view is how you grow up and better yourself, and while studying abroad isn't the only way to do this, it's a damn good one. There are a million things the author could have made her do, and it's a very deliberate road to maturity that she takes. The author is notoriously private, but I'd be willing to bet he went and had some kind of experience like this himself before sitting down and deciding to write books. So Rudy, a NEET, was afraid of leaving his own house, let alone country. Sitting alone at home with his eroge, he never had to grow up, never had to challenge himself, and never had to have anyone challenge him. So he failed at life, he failed at everything, and even failed at crossing the fucking street. Here, not only is he reborn in the furthest place imaginable, he's literally kidnapped by his own father and sent off alone into the world. So the next most important person in this story is himself. Something you might not pick up on immediately if you don't speak Japanese is just how polite Rudy is. Although, if you're paying attention, basically every other character comments on it. So naturally, this begs the question, why is he so polite? Would a sweaty otaku be this polite? No. Would a 3-year-old child be this polite? Also no. So, what the fuck? The show never gives us an answer, and I think this is because it's never ever a conscious decision on Rudy's part. He's so polite because he feels like a stranger. He's aware of his past life and knows he's somewhere he doesn't quite belong, in a body he doesn't belong in. That's why he's his old self whenever he meets the man god, and why his reincarnation is so important. He's forced to see the world through someone else's eyes. Because the other thing is, since he's a child, the idea that he can improve is obvious. Anyone can better themselves at any point, but a lot of people, including Rudy, think because they've reached a certain age, it's meaningless and they have no choice but to give up. For Rudy, being a literal child means there are no excuses. He's forced to live a different life and make choices he never would have made otherwise. And what are we but the sum of our choices? So the next key character is Rudy. Not his old self, whoever that was, but Rudy, who is him, but not him at the same time. Because he always has to think, not what would I do, but what would this person do? And that means he always has the opportunity to make the right decisions, even if he has the wrong motivations.
いいね。この顔なら将来は女の子にモテモテだろう。 It
doesn't matter why you make the right choices, it matters that you do. Rudy is forced to be someone else, and as a consequence, he starts becoming that person. Being Rudy changes how he sees the world, and that right there is the very essence of maturity. And so we see his decisions gradually change over time, from him literally trying to tear off Eris's pennies to, well, not. Because it doesn't matter how much of him is Rudy and how much of him is his old self. What matters is that he's the one making Rudy's decisions. And by the very virtue of doing so, he becomes Rudy. And so if you ever want to change yourself, think about Rudy. You don't have to be someone else, you already are. It's why those hip young Christians always used to wear those "what would Jesus do" bracelets. Because it's never about what you would do, it's about what the person you want to be would do. Because you already are that person, you just have to let yourself start becoming them. And the kind of person you should want to be is someone who would step on the like button and compliment me on how huge my PB is. But the other thing is, you aren't just the product of your own decisions, you're the product of the decisions of all the people around you. And this is where Rudy got extremely lucky. Every character, even this bartender, pushes him to be the best he can be. And whereas his old family just kinda hoped he got better, Paul confronts him at every turn, even to a fault. And so Paul is the best possible parent Rudy could have, even though he has just as many faults as he has merits, or even because he does. He's someone he would never have made friends with in his previous life, but someone completely different from him and worthy of his respect. And so not only does Paul guide him through all his failings, he's able to mature enough to understand Paul's own failures enough to be able to take a dunk on him when he does the fucky-wucky with the maid. And so with Paul by his side, he finally gets to understand not just failure, but overcoming failure.
頭のいい息子のことだ。今回の失敗もうまいこと利用するんだろう。
Being a NEET, never going outside, means he never once had to face failure. As a consequence, his life was a failure. So whenever he returns to his old body with the man god, he constantly throws blame at him because he can't deal with his own failures. Eventually, Rudy is able to mature enough to admit that there is nothing wrong with making mistakes.
僕も父様も一人の人間です。お互い失敗くらいしますよ。
But interestingly, what makes him do this is pure chance when he thinks he's dead for real this time. He has a huge gaping hole in his chest, so he finally lets go. If he's dead, then nothing really matters anymore, so he's finally able to let go of his pride and stop blaming everyone around him. And it's in this moment that he's truly able to change. So if you want to change yourself, all you have to do is die twice, idiot. No, kidding. I might make it sound like it's extremely easy to change yourself, like just die twice and have all your friends be better than you, forehead. And let's not split hairs. Rudy is lucky, possibly the luckiest man on the planet. But it really isn't that hard. You really do just have to put yourself in someone else's shoes and think, what kind of life would this person live? What kind of choices would this person make? And be that person.
Start to realize that you are actually an athlete. That what is an athlete? An athlete is someone who makes different choices from the choices you've made in the past. Therefore, you can become an athlete like this. If we stuck an athlete in your body and in your circumstance, a real athlete, and we stuck them in your circumstance, what would they do? They'd start getting their shit in order.
And while Rudy needed to die twice to make this happen, you don't. And so I want to be clear when I say this. I've never read the light novels, and this is 100% speculation, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that Rudy isn't actually dead and he's just in a coma after being hit by that truck. And that this is the story of a dying man looking back on his life and finding redemption by dreaming that he's someone else. And he'll wake up in the hospital and he'll know that it'll be hard, but he'll finally know that it's not too late to be that person, because he already is him, and all he needs to do is step outside and start becoming him. Thanks for watching, friends. If you're into this kind of anime, please consider checking out my review of Shuroi Suna no Akotope. It's a story about the meaning of life and chasing your dreams, and how that's not what life is about, but that's okay. It's by far the most underrated anime of last year, and I'd love to see more people talking about it. Thanks again for watching, friends, and I'll see you next time.